So this morning, in light of what's going on with North Korea, I want to, I don't often, well, sometimes I do, go to the Hal Turner website. Sometimes he's a little bit much. Then there are other times he hits the nail on the head, so I will go to this article that he posted this morning. It's called, "It's a Lot Worse Than Anyone Thought. North Koreans Have Missiles to Reach All of the USA." I'll read a little bit of it because I want to go into biblical things. I want everybody to remember what I posted on my video yesterday concerning Hanukkah, how that date is the date that Jehovah is going to have mercy upon Israel and begin to bring them all back, not just the house of Judah. So the article goes like this. On early July 4th, North Korea test launched a missile which their leader Kim Jong-un called a present for the American bastards. All mass media dutifully reported the launch, but they all omitted a key element in their reportage. Tuesday morning's missile test reached a height of 2,802 kilometers, which is 1,741 miles, the highest altitude a North Korean missile has ever launched. It also crossed a classified threshold for the ability to strike globally. Worse, North Korea says their technology for atmospheric re-entry of a warhead has now been verified. Many of you know that from 1993 to 2008, I worked with the FBI with my final 5 years, 2003 to 2008, with the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Federal court transcripts prove that the Assistant Special Agent in charge, Amy Pickett, who was the third highest ranking member of the FBI in New York City, testified under oath that that's how Turner handled national security, terrorism, foreign counterintelligence. Hal Turner continues and says, "I have many former colleagues in the FBI and other alphabet agencies who reveal important information to me, and it was my work in the foreign counterintelligence that allowed me to be in the know on many matters of international scope. I have worked very closely with these clandestine services and forged many trusted friendships with these brave people. Through these contacts," Hal Turner is saying, and I quote, "I can now confirm that North Korea has the ability to launch a missile which can deliver a warhead anywhere in the entire United States." You see, building a missile and launching is not a big deal. Launching a missile and getting it to strike the target you want is a big deal. A lot goes into proper targeting. It takes considerable resources and technology to make sure the missile hits near where you want it to hit. Launching a missile that can reach outer space is not a big deal. Having one that can reach a certain altitude into space is a big deal. Overcoming gravity to achieve orbit is technologically complex, but once North Korea successfully launched 2 satellites and achieved stable orbit, they crossed a major threshold. The final 2 thresholds North Korea needed to achieve were having a rocket capable of carrying a large warhead to an altitude where loss of gravity was sufficient enough to allow altering of the warhead course, and having a re-entry vehicle which could safely carry the warhead through the enormous temperatures of re-entry so the warhead survives. With Tuesday's test, North Korea demonstrated it has achieved these 2 goals. The absolute final obstacle for North Korea is to be able to steer a warhead that has been put into space so that it re-enters Earth's atmosphere at a time, place, angle to deliver the warhead to the target. This last step is almost easy compared to the other obstacles. With Tuesday's missile launch, North Korea has physically demonstrated it can now deliver a warhead anywhere on Earth. Anywhere. With Tuesday's missile, while the U.S. mass media is saying that Hawaii and parts of Alaska can now be hit, they're either not aware that anywhere in the U.S. can be hit, or they are concealing this fact. but my former colleagues in the FBI and other agencies have confirmed directly to me that the United States is now in actual danger of a North Korean missile strike. There is no doubt anymore. Perhaps that is the reason why President Trump interrupted his Independence Day celebration to contact the United Nations Secretary General and invoke an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Trump did that Tuesday afternoon. And I will say this, that it is a secret meeting. And of course, you can read the rest of this. A secret meeting is never, at the UN Security Council, is never a good thing. Now, what I want to do is this. I want to go to Revelation 12 and verse 13, starting in verse 13 first. When the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And of course, we know Satan was cast into the earth once Yeshua was raised from the dead and brought to the right hand of Jehovah, the Father. And for nearly thousands of years, the devil has persecuted the woman who brought forth the man-child. Then, verse 14, to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly to the wilderness into her place where she is nourished for times and a half a time. When you read the book of Daniel, chapter 12, you will see what this is referring to. And then you can go and look in where it talks about the 2 witnesses, that this times and a half a time is the time when the 2 witnesses will be sent to gather in the remainder of all Israel from the face of the serpent. Verse 15, and the serpent cast out of his mouth as a flood after a woman, that he might cause her to be carried away with the flood. That is when the armies come in. Ezekiel 38:39. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood. The mountains of Israel will literally devour this invading army. And the earth helped the woman, swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and then went to make war with the remainder of her seed, which keep the commandments of Jehovah, namely, you shall love Jehovah your Elohim with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and have the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. What is the testimony of Yeshua Messiah? Here it is, folks. And if you do not believe this, you do not have the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. Matthew 10 and verse 6. And starting in verse 5, these 12 Yeshua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not in the way of the Gentiles, nor into any of the cities of the Samaritans enter you not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. So they were supposed to do this free of charge. And that is the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. And you have to stay within that framework. You cannot deviate from what he just said. Now, to further illustrate the testimony of Yeshua Messiah, Matthew 15. We'll start in verse 21. Then Yeshua went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Zidon, which is in Lebanon today. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O master, you son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cries after us too. And he answered and said, I am not sent, but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, It is not right to give the children, that's Israel's, bread, and cast it to the dogs, the Gentiles. But she said, Truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from the master's table. Then Yeshua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is your faith, be it unto you even as you will. And her daughter was made whole that very hour. The point was, she had to acknowledge that he was right, that he could not give her that which belonged to the children of Israel. But she was only due the crumbs that fell from the master's table, from the children's table. And once she acknowledged that, he had come to none other but the lost sheep of the house of Israel, her daughter was healed. There was no bending of the rules here. There was no compromise. It was the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so, there is your testimony of Yeshua. If you do not have... Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of people in the United States that believe this. But much of the people of Europe and the rest of the world do not believe it. They hate Israel. They want Israel gone, especially in Europe and the Middle East. But there are many people here in the United States that have the testimony of Yeshua. What is that testimony? That Yeshua is going to come and save Israel. That is the testimony of Yeshua. So it appears, according to Revelation 12, that these people who have the testimony of Yeshua, once this invading power is defeated in the mountains of Israel, they're going to come after you. You, those who believe that Yeshua Messiah has come to save all Israel, you are going to be now the target. And most of you live in the United States of America. Genesis 49. Jacob has something to say about the last days. In verse 1, Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the very last days. That's exactly how it reads. And the after part, the end of days. That's how it's written in Strong's Concordance. Gather yourselves together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Now, I'm going to focus on Judah and Joseph. Judah, you are he, this is in verse 8, whom your brethren shall praise. Now think about that for a minute. Do the Europeans praise Judah? No, they hate Judah. Do the Arab, African nations, do they praise Judah? No, they hate Judah. Who are those who praise Judah? There is a huge number who lives here in the United States that praises Judah. I know this because I live among them. Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. This is true as we speak right now. Your father's children shall bow down before thee. That's all of the other tribes of Israel. Well, that's yet to happen. This same bowing down before Judah is the same way that Joseph's brothers bowed down to him in the land of Egypt. Verse 9, Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you are gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, as an old lion. Who shall dare rouse him up? We see that happening today. Every time that Israel has to target a terrorist movement, you don't hear much of a peep out of Syria, Hezbollah, Russia, or any of their enemies. Verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, or shall not turn aside from Judah. In other words, it may temporarily be gone, but it will always remain in the hands of Judah. Who has it today? Yeshua Messiah has that scepter. No one else. Nor a lawgiver or a scribe from between his feet until Shiloh come. Shiloh being the kingdom. And it says, perhaps he who it is a messianic title. And unto him, this actual word is obedience of the people. Okay, so this lawgiver that will be between Judah's feet, Moses was not that lawgiver because Moses was a Levite. So this is speaking of the Messiah. And it says, unto him. That Messiah who comes out of Judah shall be the gathering of the folk, or the people of all Israel be. All right, and the rest is, this is the main point. Now we go to Joseph. Verse 22, Joseph is a fruitful bough. They have the most of all the tribes of Israel, the most populous. A bough, fruitful bough by a well. Well, where it is watered. Whose branches run over the wall? Well, according to historians, the wall was the Atlantic Ocean. And of course, it was found that there was more land beyond the Atlantic Ocean. Verse 23, the archers have sorely grieved him. Now the word archers can mean both archers and overlords. In this case it means archers because as you continue in verse 24, it is talking about bow versus bow. So they have sorely grieved him, or made him, or are bitter. So the word is bitter, marar, bitter. And shot at him. So they did shoot at him. They bore a grudge, and they cherished animosity against him. Now, in this world today, much of the world bears huge animosity against Yankee. Yankee is a term for Jacob. So when you have derogatory terms for a nation like Yankee, it is because they recognized that Jacob lives there in that land. Now, I've said before, that doesn't mean the United States is Jacob. What it means is Jacob lives here. Verse 24, but his bow, that's Joseph's bow, abode in strength, and the arm of his hands were made strong, agile, by the hand, by the mighty hand of Jacob. They put God in parentheses, but that is incorrect because verse 25 makes it abundantly clear. So it should by the mighty hand of Jacob, or by the mighty Jacob. From there, or it should read, break the stone Israel. So apparently that's very obscure. So you can say at that time that the stone is going to break the 10 toes. That's another way of looking at it. I prefer to look at it that way. At that time, when they are grieving him, when they are shooting at him, Joseph, that is when the stone of Israel apparently is going to break Israel's enemies. Now, verse 25, it says, even by Elohim of your father, or it should say, Elohim your father, who shall help you, and by the Almighty, who will bless you with blessings from heaven above, blessing of the deep that lies under, and blessing of the breast and the womb. The blessings of your father has prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bounds of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and the crown of him that was separate from the head of, or separated from his brethren. So doesn't it begin to become clear who Revelation 12 and verse 17, the remnant of her seed? It becomes clear that the one with the two wings of the great eagle is Judah, but not limited to Judah. And when they go after Judah and they fight after Judah and they lose, and they're going to come after Joseph, it should remain clear to everyone now. Is it going to be exactly in that order? Well, it appears so. It appears so. However, it could be exactly at the same time, or nearly. So we have the enemy's arrows pointing at the United States. Why? Because they have the testimony, or there are many people here, I should say, who have the testimony of Yeshua. And indeed, even though our government here in the United States only half-heartedly supports Israel, there is more support for Israel, or for the Jews, I should say, in the United States, more support than there is in any other part of the earth. And the reason is very clear. There is a large segment of people here in the United States that will not tolerate persecution of the Jews. They just won't. And these people are people unlike any other people in the world. Why? Because they are the remnant of her seed, so to speak. They are those who have the testimony of Yeshua, and that testimony is also written in Romans 11 verse 26, and so all Israel shall be saved, for out of Zion shall come the deliverer, and shall turn ungodliness from Jacob, for this is my covenant with them, when I shall take away their sins. This scripture in Matthew 15, where it says, Yeshua said, I am come to none other than the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That concept is foreign to Europe. It is foreign to much of the world, but it is not foreign to a lot of people in the United States. I would say it's about half and half in the United States, to varying degrees, of how many are supporters of Israel and how many are not. But there is enough to make United States foreign policy different than the other nations of this world. So the threat from North Korea is extremely real. And one screw up can start the final World War. As I said before, the scripture appears to give timeline. I said it appears to. But let us be careful lest we misunderstand the scripture or read into it what it doesn't say, or that we fail to read what it does say. It does appear that this happens immediately after the attack on Joseph, or on the people of Joseph, happens immediately after Judah is attacked. But it does not have to be so. They're pointing their missiles at us, and let us not be fooled that China and Russia they are on the side of North Korea. If you take a look at strategies in World War II, how the Russians operated, how the Soviet Union operated, they at first had a deal with Hitler. They at first was on Hitler's side. And then the Russians' plan was to take Eastern Europe, and Germany was to take Western Europe. But you see, Russia and Germany, neither one abided by their own plans. And so consequently, Russia, when it was convenient, jumped on a different side. So the nations cannot be trusted in this whole notion, and there are people who believe that Russia can be trusted, including Hal Turner. But Russia cannot be trusted, the nations cannot be trusted, because they hate Israel. Just plain and simple. So prepare, folks. Remember my video yesterday about the timing, about Jehovah is going to show himself, is going to bring down the armies of the Gentiles, beginning with the 24th day of the 9th month, which is the first day of Hanukkah. He will begin to bless Israel on the 24th day of the 9th month, which is the first day of Hanukkah. And so, each and every year, we need to watch carefully for the first day of Hanukkah and beforehand to see, to gauge, to use our intelligence to figure out, is this going to be the year or not? I think that by the time that year comes around, and we get close to that day, that we will have a good idea about whether this is about to happen or not. Otherwise, why would he give the date, the 24th day of the 9th month? So, please be vigilant. Things are not as they seem. Do not be caught doing things that are going to make you vulnerable to the wrath of Jehovah.